Emily Schuyler's phone buzzed at 11:45 on a Friday night. She stared at the screen, her heart dropping when she saw the name, Marco Ricci. Her boss never called this late unless something had gone terribly wrong. "Mr. Ricci?" she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Emily, I need you in my office. Now." The line went dead before she could respond. 20 minutes later, she stood outside the massive oak doors of his penthouse office in downtown Manhattan. Her hands were shaking as she smoothed down her jeans and hoodie. She'd thrown on whatever was closest when she'd rushed out of her apartment, her dark blonde hair still damp from the shower she'd been taking when he called. The door swung open before she could knock. Marco Ricci stood there, all 6 feet 3 inches of him, filling the doorway like he owned the world. Because in many ways, he did. His black dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the strong column of his throat and a hint of his bronzed chest. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, showing off forearms that made her mouth go dry every single time she saw them. Those intense green eyes locked onto hers, and she felt that familiar flutter in her stomach that she'd been fighting for the past 2 years. "Come in," he said, his voice low and rough. She walked past him, catching the scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. Her office was down the hall from his, but she'd never been in here this late at night. The city sparkled below through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the space felt more intimate in the dim lighting. "Sit." He gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. Emily sat, folding her hands in her lap to hide their trembling. Marco Ricci wasn't just any businessman. Everyone in New York knew his name, knew his reputation. He ran an empire that existed in the gray areas of the law, but he'd never been caught, never been charged. He was dangerous and powerful, and she'd been his personal assistant for 2 years, organizing his life with meticulous precision. He moved around the desk, perching on the edge of it right in front of her, too close. She could see the dark stubble along his jaw, the way his black hair was slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. "I have a problem," he said, crossing his arms over his broad chest. "And I need your help." "Of course, anything." The words came out automatically. His eyes studied her face, and she felt heat creep up her neck. "My mother is turning 70 next weekend. The whole family is gathering at the estate in the Hamptons for a week-long celebration." Emily nodded. She'd been coordinating the gift he was sending, an antique necklace that had cost more than her annual salary. "She's been on my case for years about settling down. Every phone call, every visit, it's the same conversation. When am I going to bring a nice girl home? When is she going to have grandchildren?" He paused, his jaw tightening. "Last month, I told her I was seeing someone. I thought it would buy me some peace." Emily's stomach twisted. She'd heard rumors about Marco's dating life, seen the occasional photo in the tabloids of him with a beautiful woman on his arm. The thought of him with someone else made her chest ache in ways she tried not to examine too closely. "She wants to meet her," Marco continued. "She's expecting me to bring my girlfriend to the celebration." "Oh." Emily's mind raced, wondering which of the women she'd seen him with would be accompanying him. "Do you need me to coordinate her travel arrangements?" "No." His green eyes bored into hers. "I need you to be her." The world seemed to tilt. "What?" "I need you to come to the Hamptons with me and pretend to be my girlfriend for a week." Emily's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Marco stood up, moving to the window, his hands shoved into his pockets. "I know it's asking a lot, but I trust you, Emily. You know me better than anyone. You've been by my side for 2 years. You know how to handle my family, how to navigate difficult situations, and my mother already adores you from our phone conversations when you've connected her calls." "Mr. Ricci, Marco," he said, turning back to face her. "If we're going to do this, you need to call me Marco, and I'll pay you, of course, $50,000 for the week." Her brain short-circuited. $50,000. That was more than half her annual salary. With that money, she could finally pay off her student loans, help her sister with medical bills, maybe even save something for the first time in her life. "Why me?" she managed to ask. He walked back toward her, and she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Because you're the only woman I know who won't try to turn this into something real. The only one I can trust to walk away when it's over. Something painful twisted in her chest at those words. He trusted her because he knew she'd never be a threat to his heart. Because he saw her as safe, reliable, boring Emily who filed his paperwork and managed his schedule. What would I have to do? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Act like we're in love. Hold my hand. Let me put my arm around you. Smile and laugh at my jokes. Normal couple things. His eyes darkened slightly. There will be some physical affection. Nothing you're not comfortable with, but enough to be convincing. Her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. The thought of Marco's hands on her, his lips on hers, even if it was all pretend, made her feel dizzy. I need an answer, Emily. The party is in 8 days. She thought about her sister's mounting hospital bills. She thought about the collection calls she'd been ignoring. She thought about how many nights she'd lain awake fantasizing about Marco Ricci seeing her as more than just his efficient assistant. This was dangerous. This was potentially heartbreaking. This was the worst idea she'd ever heard. Okay, she heard herself say. I'll do it. Something flashed in Marco's eyes, there and gone so quickly she couldn't name it. Good. We leave Friday afternoon, pack for warm weather and bring formal wear for the birthday dinner. I'll have a dress sent to your apartment for that night. He moved back to his desk, suddenly all business, as if he hadn't just asked her to upend her entire life. We'll need to get our story straight. How we got together, how long we've been dating. Come to my place tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We'll go over everything. Your place? She'd never been to his home before. We need privacy to practice, and we need to look comfortable with each other. He glanced up at her, and there was something almost challenging in his gaze. Is that a problem? No, no problem. Good. My driver will pick you up at 6:30. He turned his attention to his computer. That's all for tonight, Emily. Get some rest. She stood on shaky legs, moving toward the door. Her hand was on the handle when his voice stopped her. Emily? She turned back. Thank you. The sincerity in his voice made her throat tight. I know I'm asking a lot, but I won't forget this. She managed a nod and escaped into the hallway. In the elevator, she pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes. What had she just agreed to? A week of pretending to be in love with Marco Ricci. A week of touching him, being close to him, acting like all her secret fantasies were real. And then walking away when it was over, knowing it had all been a lie. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marco. Wire transfer incoming. Half now, half after. Thank you for saying yes. She stared at the screen as a notification popped up. $25,000 had just hit her account. There was no backing out now. In 8 days, she would be standing beside Marco Ricci, holding his hand, pretending her heart wasn't breaking with every fake smile. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, and Emily walked out into the cool night air. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a voice whispered that this was either going to be the best week of her life or the one that destroyed her completely. She had a terrible feeling it might be both. The next evening, Emily changed her outfit 4 times before Marco's driver arrived. She finally settled on a simple navy blue dress that hit just above her knee and a cream cardigan. Professional, but not too formal. She didn't want to look like she was trying too hard. Marco's apartment was in a building she'd only seen in magazines. The doorman knew her name, which meant Marco had called ahead. The private elevator took her directly to the penthouse, and when the doors opened, she stepped into a space that took her breath away. The entire far wall was glass, offering a view of the city that made her feel like she was floating above it all. The decor was masculine but not cold, all rich woods and soft leather, with artwork that she suspected was worth more than she'd make in a lifetime. You found it okay? Marco appeared from another room, and Emily's heart did that stupid skip it always did when she saw him. He was wearing dark jeans and a gray Henley that clung to his muscular frame. His feet were bare. She'd never seen him this casual, and it felt strangely intimate. Your driver was very helpful, she said, clutching her purse. Wine? He moved to the kitchen, which was all gleaming steel and dark marble. Sure, thank you. He poured 2 glasses of red and handed her one. Their fingers brushed, and she felt that touch all the way to her toes. "Let's sit." He gestured to the massive leather sofa facing the windows. Emily sat, very aware of how close he was when he settled beside her. Close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "So," Marco said, taking a sip of his wine. "Let's start with the basics. We met at work, obviously. That part's easy." "Right." Emily tried to focus on the conversation and not on the way his jaw moved when he spoke. "I think we should say we've been dating for about 6 months. Long enough to be serious, but not so long that people will wonder why they haven't heard about it before." "That makes sense." Marco shifted to face her more fully, one arm draped along the back of the sofa behind her. "The story is that I finally stopped being an idiot and realized the perfect woman had been right in front of me the whole time. Very cliché, but my mother will eat it up." Emily's cheeks burned. "And how did it happen? I mean, what was the moment?" "You tell me." His green eyes held hers. "What would make you fall for your boss?" The question felt dangerous. "I don't know. Maybe he'd see me as more than just his assistant. Maybe he'd ask me about my life, my dreams. Maybe there'd be a moment where everything changed." "Like what?" She took a long drink of wine, gathering courage. "Like working late one night. Everyone else is gone. We're tired, maybe a little punchy from lack of sleep. We start talking about something personal, something real. And suddenly the air feels different. Charged. And then what?" His voice had dropped lower, and she realized he'd moved closer. "Then he'd look at me the way no one ever has before, like he really sees me. And maybe he'd reach out and touch my face, just gently, and I'd know that everything was about to change." The silence that followed felt heavy. Marco's eyes searched hers, and she couldn't read his expression. "Okay," he finally said, his voice rough. "So that's our story. Late night at the office about 6 months ago. I kissed you. Everything changed." Emily nodded, not trusting her voice. "Now we need to practice." "Practice?" "Being comfortable with each other. My family will be watching every move we make. If we're stiff or awkward, they'll know something's wrong." He set his wine glass down on the coffee table. "Come here." Her heart was thundering. "What?" "Closer. We're supposed to be in love, Emily. I need to be able to touch you without you jumping like a scared rabbit." She scooted closer, and Marco's hand came up to cup her face, just like in the story she'd told. His palm was warm against her cheek, his thumb brushing her skin so gently she almost whimpered. "Relax," he murmured. "I'm not going to hurt you." "I know." But her whole body was trembling. His other hand settled on her waist, and he pulled her closer until she was nearly in his lap. "Put your hand on my chest." She did, feeling his heart beating strong and steady under her palm. His shirt was soft, and beneath it she could feel the hard muscle and heat of him. "Look at me," he commanded softly. She lifted her eyes to his face. He was so close, so beautiful. His green eyes were locked on hers with an intensity that made her dizzy. "When we're with my family, I'm going to look at you like this, like you're the only person in the world. Can you handle that?" She managed a nod. "I'm going to touch you. A lot. My hand on your lower back. My fingers laced with yours. My arm around your shoulders." As he spoke, his hand slid from her waist to the small of her back, pulling her even closer. "I might kiss your temple, your cheek, your hair." His lips brushed her forehead, feather light, and she gasped. "Just like that," he said against her skin. "And you need to not react like I've just set you on fire." "That's easier said than done," she whispered without thinking. He pulled back to look at her, and something flickered in his eyes. Emily. What would happen if she just closed the distance between them? If she pressed her lips to his and made this real instead of pretend? Marco's phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the spell. He pulled away, and Emily felt cold where his warmth had been. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "I need to take this. It's about a shipment coming in tonight." "Of course." She stood quickly, smoothing her dress. "I should go anyway. It's getting late." "Emily, wait." but she was already moving toward the elevator. "I'll see you at work on Monday. We can practice more before we leave Friday." The elevator doors closed on his frustrated expression. Emily sagged against the wall, her whole body shaking. What was she doing? This was her boss. This was Marco Ricci. This was never going to be real. But for just a moment, when he'd touched her face and pulled her close, it had felt real. And that was going to make this week either the most wonderful or the most painful experience of her life. As the elevator descended, Emily pressed her fingers to her forehead where his lips had been. She could still feel the warmth of that kiss, still smell his cologne, still feel the strength of his hands on her body. 1 week. She just had to survive 1 week of pretending to be his. And then somehow find a way to go back to being just his assistant, when all she'd want was to be his everything. How will Emily survive a week of fake romance when her feelings are already dangerously real? And what happens when the lines between pretending and reality start to blur? Monday morning arrived too quickly. Emily stood in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to pull herself together. She'd barely slept all weekend, replaying Saturday night over and over in her mind. The feeling of Marco's hand on her face, his thumb brushing her cheek, the way he'd looked at her like she mattered. It was all practice. Just practice. She repeated that to herself as she walked into the office at 8 sharp. Her desk was in the anteroom just outside Marco's office, a position that gave her a view of everyone who came and went. She just set down her coffee when his door opened. Marco stood there in a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been painted on. His white shirt was crisp, his tie perfectly knotted. He looked every inch the powerful businessman, nothing like the barefoot casual man from Saturday night. "Emily, my office. Now." Her stomach flipped. His tone was clipped, professional. Was he regretting this whole arrangement? She followed him inside, and he closed the door behind her. The click of the lock made her pulse jump. "We have a problem," he said, moving to his desk. He pulled up something on his computer and turned the screen toward her. "Look at this." It was a society page from one of New York's gossip websites. The headline made her blood run cold. Marco Ricci spotted with mystery woman at Cipriani's. Below it was a photo of Marco from Friday night, leaving a restaurant with a stunning redhead on his arm. The woman was laughing, her hand on his chest in a familiar way that made Emily's stomach twist. "That's Vanessa Hartley," Marco said, his jaw tight. "An old friend. We had a business dinner Friday night to discuss a real estate deal her father is involved in. Completely professional." "Okay," Emily said slowly, not understanding why he looked so tense. "My mother reads these sites religiously. She's going to see this and ask questions. Questions about why I'm having dinner with another woman when I supposedly have a girlfriend. And what do we do?" Marco ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style. "We go public. Today. We need to be seen together, and we need to make it obvious that we're a couple." "How?" "Lunch. There's a new place in Midtown that's always packed with photographers and bloggers. We'll go there. I'll pick you up at your desk at noon. We'll be affectionate. And by tonight, the story will be that I'm completely taken with my beautiful assistant." Emily's heart hammered. "That's in 3 hours. Which gives you time to go home and change into something more." His eyes traveled over her gray pencil skirt and white blouse. "Something that doesn't scream office professional. I need you to look like a woman I can't keep my hands off." Heat flooded her cheeks. "I don't have anything like that here." Marco picked up his phone and made a call. "Isabella, I need you to pull together an outfit. Size 6, sophisticated but sexy. Needs to be at this address in an hour." He rattled off Emily's home address and hung up. "Go home. Isabella will meet you there with options. Pick something that makes you feel confident." "Marco, I can't just leave work." "You work for me, Emily. I'm telling you to go home and change. Take the company car." His eyes softened slightly. "Please, I know this is a lot, but we need to sell this." She nodded and grabbed her purse. "I'll be back by noon." An hour and a half later, Emily stood in front of her mirror, barely recognizing herself. Isabella, whoever she was, had impeccable taste. The dress was a deep emerald green that hugged her curves and made her eyes pop. It had a V-neck that showed just enough skin to be interesting without being inappropriate. The hem hit mid-thigh, and paired with nude heels, it made her legs look endless. Isabella had also insisted on doing her makeup and hair. Her blonde hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and her makeup was subtle but made her features stand out in ways she'd never achieved on her own. "You look like a woman in love," Isabella had said with a knowing smile before she left. Emily wasn't sure about that, but she definitely looked like a different person. Confident, beautiful, the kind of woman who could stand beside Marco Ricci and belong there. When she walked back into the office at 11:55, every head turned. She kept her eyes straight ahead, moving toward her desk, but she could feel the stares following her. Marco's door opened exactly at noon. He stepped out and froze. For a long moment, he just stared at her. His green eyes traveled from her face down her body and back up, and the heat in that gaze made her skin tingle. "Emily," he said, his voice rough. "You look... Is it okay?" She felt suddenly self-conscious under his intense scrutiny. He crossed to her in 3 long strides. His hand came up to touch a strand of her hair, letting it slide through his fingers. "You look absolutely stunning." The sincerity in his voice made her breath catch. "Ready for lunch?" He offered his arm, and she took it, very aware of the solid muscle beneath his suit jacket. They walked through the office together, and Emily felt every eye on them. Marco's hand moved from her arm to her lower back, possessive and warm, guiding her toward the elevator. Once inside and alone, he turned to her. "Okay, ground rules. When we get to the restaurant, I'm going to touch you. A lot. Hand-holding, my arm around you, maybe playing with your hair. The goal is to look so into each other that anyone watching knows we're together." "I understand." "And Emily?" He stepped closer. "If anything makes you uncomfortable, just squeeze my hand twice. That's our signal. I'll back off immediately." The fact that he was thinking about her comfort made her heart squeeze. "Thank you." The restaurant was exactly as crowded as Marco had predicted. Emily spotted at least 3 people with cameras as they walked in. The hostess recognized Marco immediately and led them to a corner booth that was somehow both visible and intimate. Marco slid in beside her instead of across from her, his thigh pressing against hers. His arm went around her shoulders and he pulled her close. "Smile," he murmured against her ear. "You're supposed to be crazy about me." That part, at least, wasn't hard to fake. They ordered, and Marco kept up a steady stream of conversation, asking about her favorite foods, her hobbies, things he should already know if they'd been dating for 6 months. She realized he was building their backstory, creating details they could reference later. "Tell me something real," he said suddenly. "Something I don't know about you." Emily twisted her napkin in her lap. "Like what?" "Anything. Your dreams, your fears, what you do when you're not organizing my life." She took a breath. "I want to travel. I've never been outside the country because I've always been too broke or too busy taking care of my sister. But someday, I want to see Paris, Florence, Barcelona, all the places I've only read about." Marco's hand found hers under the table, lacing their fingers together. "Your sister, she's sick?" "Chronic illness. She has good days and bad days. The medical bills are crushing, but she's family. She'd do the same for me." "That's why you said yes to this." It wasn't a question. "Part of why," she admitted. "The money helps. But also," she looked up at him, "I trust you. I know that probably sounds stupid given what you do, but I've worked for you for 2 years. I've seen how you treat people. You're fair. You keep your word. That matters." Something shifted in his expression. His thumb stroked over her knuckles. "You're the only person in my life who sees me as more than just my reputation. Maybe they're not looking close enough." He studied her face like he was seeing her for the first time. "Maybe they're not." The food arrived, breaking the moment. Marco fed her a bite of his pasta, his eyes never leaving hers as she took it from his fork. The gesture was intimate, domestic, and Emily was very aware of the phone cameras pointed in their direction. "You're doing great," he said softly. "My mother is going to love you. Tell me about her. What should I know?" "She's strong. Lost my father when I was 15, raised me and my 2 sisters on her own. She worked 3 jobs to keep us fed and educated. Everything I am, I owe to her." His voice was warm with affection. "She's going to interrogate you. Fair warning. She'll want to know everything about your family, your background, your intentions with her son." "My intentions?" Emily couldn't help smiling. "She'll want to make sure you're not after my money." His lips quirked. "I'm supposed to tell her you refused my gifts, that you value me for who I am, not what I can provide." "Well, that part's true." His eyes locked on hers. "Is it?" "Marco, I said yes because of the money, I won't lie about that. But working for you these past 2 years has been the best job I've ever had. You challenge me. You trust me with important things. You see me as competent, not just as someone to fetch coffee. You are competent. You're brilliant." His hand came up to cup her face, and she knew this was for the cameras, but it felt real. "I don't know how I functioned before you came into my life." Her breath caught. This was just pretend, just part of the act. But the way he was looking at her made her want to believe it was real. Marco's eyes dropped to her lips. For a heart-stopping moment, she thought he was going to kiss her right there in the restaurant. Instead, he leaned in and pressed his lips to her temple, letting them linger. "We should get back to the office," he murmured against her skin. "I have a meeting at 2. They left the restaurant with his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. Emily saw at least 5 phones capturing the moment. In the car back to the office, Marco checked his phone and smiled. "It's already online." Marco Ricci and Mystery Woman heat up lunch at Sorella's. "There are photos of us. You look beautiful in all of them." Emily leaned over to see. In the photos, she was looking up at Marco with an expression that made her stomach drop. She looked absolutely gone for him, head over heels in love, because she was. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Somewhere between 2 years of working beside him and Saturday night's practice session, she'd fallen completely and hopelessly in love with Marco Ricci. And in 5 days, she was going to have to spend a week pretending those feelings were fake. "Emily, you okay?" Marco's hand touched her shoulder. "Fine, just tired." She managed to smile. "This is more intense than I expected. It's just for a week. Then everything goes back to normal." Normal, right. Except nothing was ever going to feel normal again. Back at the office, Emily changed into the spare clothes she kept in her desk drawer, back to her safe pencil skirt and blouse, back to being just the assistant. But when she caught Marco watching her through his office window, the heat in his eyes suggested that maybe he wasn't ready for things to go back to normal either. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. "Dinner tonight. My place. 8 o'clock. We need to practice more before Friday." Practice. That's all this was. Practice for a performance that would end with her heart in pieces. She typed back, "I'll be there." Because what choice did she have? She'd already agreed. Already taken half the money. Already fallen in love with a man who would never see her as anything more than his convenient, trustworthy assistant. Emily stared at her computer screen, trying to focus on work, but all she could think about was tonight. More practice. More of Marco's hands on her body. More of pretending this was real when it was tearing her apart. And the worst part? She wouldn't trade it for anything. 1 week of having Marco look at her like she mattered, even if it was all an act, was worth whatever heartbreak waited at the end. She just had to remember to protect what was left of her heart when it was over, if there was anything left to protect. What will happen when Emily and Marco practice being a couple again tonight? And how long can she hide her real feelings? Emily changed outfits 3 more times before Marco's driver arrived at 7:30. She finally settled on dark jeans and a soft pink sweater that made her feel feminine without trying too hard. Her hands were shaking as she applied lip gloss in the back seat of the car. When she stepped off the elevator into Marco's penthouse, he was waiting for her with 2 wine glasses already poured. But something was different tonight. He looked tense, his shoulders tight, and he'd already loosened his tie like he'd been pulling at it. "Thanks for coming," he said, handing her a glass. "I know it's late notice." "It's fine. What do we need to practice?" Marco took a long drink of his wine. "Everything. My sister Lucia called today. She's already suspicious. She said I've never mentioned you before, never brought anyone to family events, and suddenly I'm bringing a girlfriend to Mom's birthday." "What did you tell her?" "That I was keeping you to myself because I didn't want to share you with my crazy family yet." He set his glass down and moved closer. "But she's going to be watching us like a hawk. Lucia can spot a lie from a mile away. If we're not completely convincing, she'll call us out in front of everyone." Emily's stomach twisted. "So what do we do?" "We need to know each other, really know each other. Not just the surface stuff, but the details that couples know. Your favorite movie, what you eat for breakfast, how you take your coffee, what side of the bed you sleep on." "Right side," Emily said automatically. "And I already know you take your coffee black, no sugar. You hate breakfast meetings because you're not fully awake until 9. Your favorite movie is The Godfather, which is predictable. But you've also watched Pride and Prejudice at least twice because your mother loves it." Marco stared at her. "How do you know about Pride and Prejudice?" "I've been your assistant for 2 years. I know everything about you." The words came out softer than she intended. "I know you're left-handed, but you taught yourself to shoot with your right because your father said it was a useful skill. I know you hate ties, but you wear them because they command respect. I know you send your mother flowers every Sunday and you think no one notices, but I'm the one who orders them." Something flickered across his face. "You pay attention." "It's my job." "No," he said quietly. "It's more than that. You care." The air between them felt charged. Emily took a sip of wine, needing something to do with her hands. "Tell me about your family," Marco said, sitting on the couch and patting the space beside him. "I need to know everything so I can talk about them naturally." Emily sat, tucking her legs under her. "There's not much to tell. My parents died in a car accident when I was 20. My sister Claire was 17. I dropped out of college to take care of her, worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. She got sick 2 years later, and the bills just kept piling up. That's when you came to work for me. You paid better than anywhere else, and you didn't ask too many questions about my lack of a degree." She smiled slightly. "Best decision I ever made." Marco's hand found hers, his fingers warm and strong. "I'm sorry about your parents. That must have been devastating." "It was, but Claire and I survived. We're tough." She looked down at their joined hands. "She's the only family I have left. That's why the money from this arrangement means so much. I can finally get her the treatment she needs. After this week, if you need more, you tell me. I'll help." Emily's eyes snapped to his. "Marco, no. You're already paying me $50,000. I'm serious, Emily. Your sister's health is important. You shouldn't have to choose between her and your own financial security." His thumb stroked over her knuckles. "Let me help, please." The sincerity in his voice made her throat tight. "Why would you do that?" "Because you matter to me." The words hung in the air between them. "You're not just my assistant. You're someone I trust, someone I respect, someone I—" He trailed off, his jaw tightening. "Someone you what?" Marco stood abruptly, moving to the window. "We should practice more. Physical stuff. My family will expect us to be comfortable with each other." The subject change was obvious, but Emily let it go. She stood and moved to join him at the window, the city lights twinkling below them. "What did you have in mind?" she asked. He turned to face her, and the intensity in his green eyes made her breath catch. "Dancing. My mother will absolutely insist we dance at the birthday party. There will be music and everyone will be watching. I'm not a very good dancer. I'll lead. You just have to trust me." He pulled out his phone and started music playing from speakers hidden around the room. Something slow and romantic filled the space. Marco held out his hand. "Come here." Emily took it, and he pulled her close, one hand settling on her lower back, the other holding hers against his chest. They began to move, and she was surprised by how natural it felt. He led her easily, his body guiding hers, and she found herself relaxing against him. See, he murmured, you're a natural. Or you're just a really good lead. His hand on her back pressed her closer until there was barely any space between them. She could feel the heat of his body, smell his cologne, feel the steady beat of his heart under her palm. Emily, he said softly, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Have you ever been in love? The question caught her off guard. They continued swaying, but her mind was racing. Once, a long time ago. It didn't work out. What happened? He wanted someone more exciting. Someone who could drop everything and travel with him, who didn't have responsibilities tying her down. She kept her eyes on Marco's chest. He said I was too serious, too focused on taking care of everyone else, that I'd forgotten how to live. Marco's hand came up to cup her face, tilting it so she had to meet his eyes. He was an idiot. Taking care of the people you love isn't a flaw. It's a strength. It's beautiful. Her heart stuttered. Marco, I'm serious. Any man who couldn't see how incredible you are didn't deserve you. His thumb brushed her cheek. You're smart, capable, loyal. You're beautiful, inside and out. And the way you love your sister, the way you'd sacrifice anything for her, that's not something to apologize for. That's something to celebrate. Emily's eyes burned with tears. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. No one had ever made her feel like her choices were admirable instead of limiting. Thank you, she whispered. They'd stopped dancing, but they were still swaying slightly, caught in each other's orbit. Marco's eyes dropped to her lips, and this time she knew he was going to kiss her. She could see it in the way his breathing changed, the way his hand tightened on her back. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. This was it, the moment everything would change. Marco leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't want to pull away. She wanted this more than she'd wanted anything in her life. His lips were inches from hers when his phone rang. They both froze. The spell shattered. Marco stepped back, running a hand through his hair. I need to take this. It's my sister. Emily nodded, wrapping her arms around herself as he moved away to answer the call. Lucia, what's wrong? His voice shifted into Big Brother mode. Slow down. What happened? Emily watched as his expression darkened. He did what? That son of... He took a breath, clearly trying to calm down. Okay, it's okay. You and the kids come stay with me tonight. I'll send a car. No, I don't care what time it is. You're my sister. I'll always make room for you. He listened for a moment longer. I love you too. The car will be there in 20 minutes. When he hung up, his jaw was tight with anger. My brother-in-law is a piece of work. He got drunk and started throwing things. Lucia grabbed the kids and left. Oh my God, is she okay? Physically, yes, but she's terrified. He looked at Emily. I'm sorry, but I need to... Go, of course. Your family needs you. Emily grabbed her purse. I'll get out of your way. Emily, wait. Marco caught her hand. Come with me to pick them up. Lucia's been asking to meet you anyway, and having another woman there might help her feel more comfortable. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on a family crisis. You're my girlfriend, remember? Family crises are part of the deal. His eyes pleaded with her. Please, I could use the support. Emily nodded. Okay, let's go. 20 minutes later, they were in Marco's car heading toward Brooklyn. He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other holding Emily's. She could feel the tension radiating off him. He's always been like this, Marco said quietly. Drinks too much, gets mean. I've told Lucia 100 times to leave him, but she keeps hoping he'll change. It's hard to leave when you love someone. Love shouldn't hurt like that. They pulled up to a modest house in Bay Ridge. A woman stood on the porch with 2 children clinging to her. Even in the dark, Emily could see the family resemblance. Lucia had Marco's dark hair and strong features, but her eyes were sad. Marco was out of the car before Emily could blink, gathering his sister into his arms. I've got you. You're safe now. The children, a boy around 8 and a girl around 5, watched with wide eyes. Emily approached slowly, kneeling down to their level. "Hi there," she said softly. "I'm Emily. Your Uncle Marco asked me to come help. Are you guys okay?" The little girl nodded, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Daddy was yelling, "I know, sweetheart, but you're safe now. Your uncle is going to take care of everything." Marco loaded their bags into the car while Lucia buckled the kids into the back seat. When she climbed into the front passenger seat, her eyes landed on Emily with curiosity. "So you're the famous Emily," Lucia said. "Marco can't stop talking about you." Emily felt her cheeks heat. "That's sweet of him." "Sweet isn't a word I usually associate with my brother," Lucia said with a weak smile. "But with you, he's different. Softer." Marco slid into the driver's seat, his hand immediately finding Emily's. Everyone buckled. "Let's get you home." Back at the penthouse, Marco got the kids set up in one of his guest rooms while Emily made hot chocolate in the kitchen. Lucia joined her, wrapping her arms around herself. "Thank you for being here," Lucia said. "I know this isn't how you wanted to spend your evening." "Are you kidding? Your family needed help." "Of course I'm here." Lucia studied her. "You're good for him, you know. I've never seen Marco let anyone this close before. He's always so guarded, so careful. But with you, he's real." Emily's heart ached. If only Lucia knew the truth, that this was all pretend, that in less than a week she'd be gone from Marco's life. "He's a good man," Emily said quietly. "Better than most people realize." "He is. He practically raised me and our younger sister after Dad died. He gave up so much to make sure we were okay." Lucia's eyes filled with tears. "And now I'm right back where I started, needing him to save me." "Hey!" Emily took Lucia's hand. "Asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. You protected your children tonight. You got them out of a dangerous situation. That's strength." Lucia squeezed her hand. "I see why he loves you." The words hit Emily like a punch to the chest, because Marco didn't love her. This was all an act, a business arrangement. She couldn't let herself forget that. Marco appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Kids are asleep. Lucia, your room is ready whenever you are." "I think I'll turn in now." Lucia hugged her brother tight. "Thank you for everything, as always." "Always," he promised. When Lucia disappeared down the hall, Marco turned to Emily. His eyes were tired, the weight of the world on his shoulders. "You were amazing tonight," he said. "With the kids, with Lucia. You just stepped in and helped like it was the most natural thing in the world. That's what family does, even fake family." Something painful flashed across his face. Right, fake. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning neither of them wanted to examine. "I should go," Emily said. "It's late and you need to be here for your sister." "Stay." The word came out rough. "Please, I could use the company and it's almost midnight. You can take the other guest room." Emily knew she should say no, knew that every moment she spent with him was making this harder. But the vulnerability in his eyes undid her. "Okay, I'll stay." Relief flooded his features. "Thank you." He showed her to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment, with an attached bathroom stocked with everything she could need. But when he turned to leave, Emily caught his hand. "Marco, are you okay?" He looked down at their joined hands, then back at her face. "I am now. Having you here, it helps. You help." He lifted her hand to his lips and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles. The gesture was so tender, so real, that Emily forgot how to breathe. "Good night, Emily," he murmured. "Good night." When he left, Emily sat on the edge of the bed, her hand pressed to her chest. Her heart was racing, her mind spinning. Tonight had shifted something between them. The lines were blurring, and she wasn't sure where the pretending ended and reality began. In 4 days, they'd leave for the Hamptons. 4 days to prepare for a week of pretending to be in love. The problem was, Emily wasn't sure she was pretending anymore. What will happen when the lines between fake and real become impossible to see? And how will Emily survive the week ahead when her heart is already his? Emily woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Marco's penthouse, Lucia and the kids. The way he'd kissed her knuckles and looked at her like she was something precious. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. 7:15. She had clothes at the office, but showing up in last night's jeans and sweater would raise questions she didn't want to answer. A soft knock on the door made her jump. "Emily, you awake?" Marco's voice was muffled through the wood. "Yes. Come in." The door opened and Marco appeared with a coffee mug and a shopping bag. He'd already showered and changed, his hair still damp, wearing jeans and a navy blue t-shirt that clung to his muscular frame in ways that should be illegal. "Morning," he said, setting the coffee on her nightstand. "I had some clothes delivered for you. Should be your size. Thought you might not want to wear yesterday's outfit to work." Emily sat up, very aware that her hair was probably a disaster and she had no makeup on. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." His eyes traveled over her face, and something warm flickered in them. "You look beautiful in the morning." Her cheeks heated. "I look like I just rolled out of bed." "Exactly." He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "I like seeing you like this, relaxed, real." The intimacy of the moment made her heart race. This wasn't for show. There was no one to perform for. It was just them. "How's Lucia?" Emily asked, needing to break the tension. "Still asleep." "The kids are up, watching cartoons. I made them pancakes, which apparently makes me the best uncle ever." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "She's filing for divorce today. I've already called my lawyer." "Good. She deserves better." "She does, and she's got it now. I'm not letting that bastard near her or the kids again." The protective edge in his voice sent shivers down Emily's spine. This was the man behind the reputation, the one who took care of his family no matter what. "You're a good brother." "I try." He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her jaw. "Thank you for being here last night. It meant a lot, to all of us. I wouldn't have been anywhere else." His eyes searched hers. "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Always." "This arrangement we have, this fake relationship, how are you feeling about it? Really?" Her heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" "I mean that last night felt real. You with my family, taking care of the kids, supporting Lucia. It didn't feel like acting." His thumb brushed her cheek. "And Saturday night, when we practiced dancing, when I almost kissed you, that didn't feel like acting either." Emily couldn't breathe. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? "Marco." His phone rang, shattering the moment. He pulled it from his pocket and swore under his breath. "It's my other sister, Gianna. I need to take this. She's probably heard about Lucia." "Of course." He stood, already answering the call as he left the room. "Gee, slow down. Yes, she's here. She's safe." Emily flopped back on the bed, her heart pounding. What had just happened? Had Marco been about to tell her he had real feelings for her? Or was she reading too much into everything because she wanted it to be true? She forced herself to get up and check the shopping bag. Inside was a gorgeous cream-colored dress with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt, along with matching shoes and even undergarments in her exact size. A note was tucked inside. "Thought you might like something that makes you feel as beautiful as you are. Amen." Emily pressed the note to her chest. This man was going to destroy her. She showered and dressed, taking time with her hair and using the makeup products that had also been thoughtfully included. When she emerged, she found Marco in the kitchen with both kids. The little girl, whose name she learned was Sophia, was sitting on the counter helping him crack eggs while the boy, Antonio, was setting the table. "Emily!" Sophia squealed when she saw her. "You look like a princess." "Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty beautiful yourself." Marco turned from the stove, and the look he gave her made her knees weak. His eyes traveled slowly from her face down to her shoes and back up, heating with every inch. "Beautiful doesn't even begin to cover it," he said, his voice rough. Antonio made a face. "Uncle Marco, you're looking at her like Dad looks at Mom when they're about to kiss." "It's gross." Emily laughed, but Marco just grinned. "That's because your Aunt Emily is my girlfriend, And girlfriends are supposed to be kissed. Are you going to marry her? Sophia asked innocently. Mommy says when people love each other, they get married. Marco's eyes locked on Emily's. Maybe someday, princess. If she'll have me. The words were for the kids, Emily reminded herself. Just part of the act. But the way he was looking at her made her wonder. Lucia appeared in the doorway, looking better than she had last night, but still exhausted. Morning. Sorry, I slept later than I meant to. You needed it, Marco said, moving to hug his sister. Coffee's ready, and I'm making eggs. They all sat down for breakfast together, and Emily was struck by how natural it felt. The easy banter, the way Marco teased his nephews and made his niece giggle, the way Lucia kept glancing between Emily and Marco with knowing smiles. This was what a family looked like, what love looked like. And in 3 days, Emily would be pretending to be part of this family, pretending Marco loved her, pretending she belonged. After breakfast, Marco insisted on driving Emily to work himself. In the car, he reached over and took her hand. I know today was a lot, he said. Waking up in my place, breakfast with the family, but you handled it perfectly. Lucia texted me while you were in the shower. She said she loves you already. She's wonderful. Your whole family is. They're going to adore you this weekend. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles like he had last night. Just 3 more days, and we'll be in the Hamptons. Are you ready? No. She wasn't ready at all, but she nodded anyway. Ready as I'll ever be. At the office, word had spread about the photos from their lunch yesterday. Emily could feel the whispers following her as she walked to her desk. Several people stopped by to congratulate her, fishing for details she didn't give. Around noon, a massive bouquet of roses arrived at her desk. The card read, "Thank you for last night, for being there when my family needed you, for being you. M." Someone's smitten, her co-worker Jennifer said, eyeing the flowers. Marco Ricci doesn't strike me as the romantic type, but those are gorgeous. He has his moments, Emily said, unable to keep the smile off her face. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marco. Dinner tonight? My place again. Just us this time, I promise. Her fingers trembled as she typed back. What about Lucia and the kids? They're staying at my other property in Brooklyn. Wanted to give them space. Plus, I want you all to myself for a few hours. Her heart raced. Okay, what time? 7. And Emily? Wear that green dress from yesterday. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you in it. She stared at the text, reading it 3 times. This didn't sound like a business arrangement. This sounded like a man who wanted to see her, really see her. The afternoon crawled by. Emily tried to focus on work, but her mind kept wandering to tonight, to Marco, to the way he'd looked at her this morning like she was everything he'd been searching for. At 6, she went home to change. The green dress was at the cleaners, so she chose a different one, black, fitted, with a neckline that showed just enough to be interesting. She took extra time with her makeup and hair, telling herself it wasn't because she wanted Marco to look at her the way he had at the restaurant, but she was lying to herself. His driver picked her up at 6:45, and her stomach was in knots the entire ride. When she stepped off the elevator, Marco was waiting. He'd changed into dark jeans and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up. His hair was slightly messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. Hi, he said, his voice soft. Hi. They stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. The air felt charged with something Emily couldn't name but desperately wanted to understand. Come in, Marco finally said, stepping aside. I cooked. You cooked? Don't sound so surprised. I'm Italian. Cooking is in my blood. He led her to the dining room, where the table was set with candles and wine. I made pasta, my mother's recipe. They sat down, and the food was incredible. Rich and flavorful, the kind of meal that tasted like love and tradition. As they ate, Marco asked about her day, her dreams, her favorite memories. And he listened. Really listened, like every word mattered. Tell me about your parents, he said over dessert. What were they like? Emily smiled, the question bringing up memories she usually kept locked away. My dad was a teacher, history. He could make the past come alive with his stories. My mom was a nurse. She worked crazy hours but always made time for us. Her voice thickened. They were dancing in the kitchen when I left for college. That's my last memory of them together. Happy. In love. I didn't know I'd never see them again. Marco's hand covered hers. I'm so sorry. They had 16 years together. That's more than a lot of people get. She looked up at him. Have you ever been in love, Marco? Really in love? He was quiet for a long moment. I thought I was. Once. Her name was Catherine. We dated for 2 years. I was ready to propose. His jaw tightened. Then I found out she was feeding information about my business to a rival. She'd been using me the whole time. Marco, that's awful. It taught me to be careful, to not trust easily, to keep people at a distance. His eyes met hers. Until you. Her breath caught. Me? You're different, Emily. You've seen every side of me. The businessman, the brother, the son. And you've never asked for anything. Never tried to use me. You just show up day after day and make my life better by being in it. That's my job. No. He stood and moved around the table, pulling her to her feet. It stopped being just a job a long time ago. For both of us. Don't pretend you don't feel this thing between us. Her heart was hammering. Marco, we have an agreement, a business arrangement. Screw the arrangement. His hands came up to frame her face. I'm tired of pretending. Tired of lying to myself. Emily, His phone rang. Again. This time, the ringtone made him tense. It's my mother. I have to answer. He stepped away, and Emily wrapped her arms around herself. Had he been about to say what she thought? That he had real feelings for her? Hi, Mom, Marco said, his voice warm. Yes, I'm excited for this weekend, too. Of course I'm bringing Emily. You're going to love her. He listened for a moment, then laughed. Mom, I'm not discussing that. Yes, she's special. Very special. I'll see you Friday. When he hung up, he turned back to Emily. The moment was broken, but the intensity in his eyes remained. We need to leave Friday at noon, he said. The party is Saturday night, but Mom wants time with us before all the chaos starts. Okay. Emily. He closed the distance between them again. What I was about to say before, don't. She put her hand on his chest, feeling his heart racing. Please don't say it unless you mean it, unless this is real and not just part of the act. His hand covered hers. What if I told you it's the most real thing I've felt in years? She looked up at him, searching his face for any sign he was playing her. But all she saw was sincerity, vulnerability, want. Then I'd say I'm terrified, she whispered, because in 2 days, we're going to spend a week pretending. And I don't know how to pretend anymore when everything I feel is real. Marco's eyes darkened. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her face up to his. Then let's stop pretending. This time, when he leaned in, nothing interrupted them. His lips met hers in a kiss that stole her breath and her sanity. It started gentle, questioning, but when she responded, wrapping her arms around his neck, it deepened into something that made her knees weak. This wasn't practice. This wasn't for show. This was real. Marco kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him, and she could feel the hard planes of his body, the strength in his hands, the desperation in the way he held her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. That was real, he said, his voice rough. Tell me you felt it too. I felt it. Her voice shook. Marco, what are we doing? I don't know, but I know I don't want to stop. He pulled back to look at her. Come to the Hamptons with me, not as my fake girlfriend, as my real one. Let's see where this goes. Emily's heart soared and plummeted at the same time. What about the money? The arrangement? Keep it. I don't care about that. I care about you. His thumb brushed her swollen lips. I want this to be real, Emily. I want us to be real. She wanted that too. More than anything. but fear held her back. What if it doesn't work? What if we try this and it falls apart? I can't lose my job. I can't lose you from my life. You won't. I promise. Whatever happens, you'll always have a place with me. But Emily, I think we could be something incredible together. Don't you want to find out? She did. God, she did. Yes, she breathed. Yes, I want to find out. Marco's smile was brilliant. He kissed her again, slower this time, sweeter, like he had all the time in the world to explore her mouth and learn what made her sigh. When they came up for air, Emily was dizzy with happiness and terror in equal measure. 2 days. They had 2 days before they left for the Hamptons. 2 days before they walked into his family home as a real couple, not a fake one. 2 days to figure out if this was the beginning of something beautiful or the biggest mistake of her life. Everything has changed between Emily and Marco. But will their new real relationship survive the pressure of meeting his family? And what happens when the fake arrangement becomes their new reality? Friday morning arrived too quickly. Emily stood in her bedroom staring at her suitcase, her stomach a knot of nerves. In 2 hours, Marco's driver would pick her up. In 4 hours, they'd be at his family's estate in the Hamptons. As a real couple. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marco. Ready to do this? No turning back now. She smiled despite her nerves and typed back. Ready. Terrified, but ready. Good, because I just told my mother the truth. Emily's heart stopped. What truth? That you're not just my girlfriend. That you're the woman I'm falling in love with. She stared at the words, reading them over and over. Falling in love. With her. Another text came through. Too much? Sorry. I'm not good at holding back anymore. See you soon. Emily pressed the phone to her chest. This was really happening. Marco Ricci was falling in love with her. The drive to the Hamptons was beautiful. Late spring had painted everything green and gold, and the ocean sparkled in the distance. Marco held her hand the entire way, his thumb tracing circles on her skin. You're quiet, he said. Second thoughts? No, just thinking about meeting your mother. Really meeting her. Not as your assistant, but as your girlfriend. She's going to love you. I told you. She already does from your phone calls. He lifted her hand to his lips. And even if she didn't, it wouldn't change how I feel. The estate took Emily's breath away. It was massive, all white stone and blue shutters, with gardens that looked like something from a movie. A woman stood on the front steps, waiting. Even from a distance, Emily could see she was beautiful, with silver-streaked dark hair and Marco's green eyes. That's Mom, Marco said, his voice warm with affection. Ready? Emily nodded, and they got out of the car. Marco's arm went around her waist immediately, pulling her close as they approached. Marco! His mother rushed down the steps and threw her arms around him. My baby boy! Finally home! Hi, Mom. Miss me? Always. She pulled back and turned to Emily, her eyes sparkling. And you must be Emily. Come here, let me look at you. Emily stepped forward, and Marco's mother took both her hands, studying her face with an intensity that made her feel exposed. Beautiful, she finally said. And kind eyes. I can always tell character from the eyes. She pulled Emily into a hug that smelled like vanilla and home. Welcome to the family, sweetheart. I'm Rosa. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Ricci. Rosa, please. Mrs. Ricci makes me feel ancient. She looped her arm through Emily's. Come, I'll show you to your room. Marco, bring the bags. Mom, I can get someone to... Your girlfriend just drove 3 hours. You can carry her suitcase. Rosa winked at Emily. I raised him right, but sometimes he forgets. Marco just laughed and grabbed their bags, following as Rosa led Emily inside. The house was even more stunning inside. High ceilings, elegant furniture, family photos covering every surface. Rosa kept up a steady stream of conversation, pointing out pictures and telling stories. This is you and Marco at your graduation, Emily said, stopping at one photo. Marco looked young, maybe 20, with his arm around his beaming mother. First person in our family to finish college, Rosa said proudly. His father would have been so proud. They climbed the stairs to the second floor, and Rosa opened a door to a beautiful bedroom with windows overlooking the ocean. "This is the guest room," Rosa said, setting Emily's purse on the dresser. Marco appeared in the doorway with the suitcases. "Mom, I thought Emily would stay in my room." Rosa's eyebrows rose. "Marco Antonio Ricci, I may be modern, but not that modern. Emily is a guest in this house, and guests get their own rooms. You can survive a few nights without her." Emily's cheeks burned, but Marco just grinned. "Worth a try. Out. Let Emily settle in." Rosa shooed him away, then turned back to Emily with a softer expression. "I hope you don't mind. I'm a little old-fashioned about these things." "Not at all. I completely understand." "Good. Now rest for a bit. Dinner is at 7, just family tonight. Tomorrow is the big party with everyone." She squeezed Emily's hand. "I'm so glad you're here. Marco has been different since he met you. Lighter, happy. That's all a mother wants for her son." When Rosa left, Emily sat on the bed and exhaled. The first hurdle was cleared. Rosa seemed to genuinely like her. A soft knock made her look up. Marco stood in the doorway, his expression tender. "Can I come in?" "Of course." He closed the door behind him and crossed to her, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "You were perfect with my mother. She's wonderful. She is. And she's right, you know. I have been different since you came into my life." His hands framed her face. "Happier, more whole, like I was missing something and didn't even know it until I found you." Emily's throat tightened. "Marco, I know we agreed to take this slow, to see where it goes. But Emily, I need you to know something." His green eyes burned into hers. "This isn't casual for me. What I feel for you, it's not something I can walk away from. You've gotten under my skin, into my heart, and I don't want you anywhere else. I don't want to be anywhere else," she whispered. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, pouring everything he felt into that connection. When he pulled back, his smile was brilliant. "Come on, let me show you around before dinner. I want you to see my favorite places." They spent the afternoon exploring the estate. Marco showed her the beach where he'd learned to swim, the garden where his father had proposed to his mother, the treehouse he and his sisters had built. Every story, every memory, pulled her deeper into his world. At 7, the family gathered for dinner. Besides Rosa, there was Lucia with Antonio and Sofia, and Marco's younger sister Gianna, who was pregnant and glowing. Her husband Richard was quiet but kind, watching Gianna with obvious adoration. "So, Emily," Gianna said over pasta, "how did you put up with my brother long enough to fall for him? He's so bossy." "I am not bossy," Marco protested. "You absolutely are," Lucia chimed in. "Remember when you tried to plan my entire wedding? I was helping. You had color-coded spreadsheets, Marco." Emily laughed. "He does love his spreadsheets, but that's part of his charm. He's organized, protective, and he actually listens when people talk. That's rare." Marco's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. "She's good for you," Rosa said, watching them with knowing eyes. "You need someone who sees past the walls you build." After dinner, Marco walked Emily back to her room. At her door, he pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "Thank you for being here, for being you. Where else would I be? I should let you sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day with the party." But he didn't move away. Instead, his lips found hers in a kiss that made her head spin. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Emily's hand was fisted in his shirt. "Good night, Emily," he murmured against her lips. "Good night." She watched him walk down the hall to his room, then closed her door and leaned against it. Her heart was racing, her body humming with want. This was real. She and Marco were really together. And tomorrow, in front of his entire family, they'd celebrate his mother's birthday as a couple. Emily changed into her pajamas and climbed into bed. But sleep was a long time coming. Her mind kept replaying the day. Rosa's warm welcome. The stories Marco had shared. The way he'd looked at her at dinner like she was the only person in the room. Somewhere around midnight, her phone buzzed. A text from Marco. "Can't sleep. Keep thinking about you in that dress at dinner, and out of it." Her cheeks heated as she typed back. "Marco Ricci, your mother is down the hall." "I know. Doesn't stop me from thinking about it. About you." "What are you thinking?" "That tomorrow night, after the party, I'm going to kiss you until you forget your own name. That I want to wake up next to you and fall asleep holding you. That I've never felt this way about anyone." Emily's heart swelled. "I've never felt this way either. It's terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Get some sleep, beautiful. Tomorrow I get to show you off to everyone I know. Can't wait." She hugged her phone to her chest, a smile spreading across her face. In less than 12 hours, she'd be at Rosa's birthday party, dancing with Marco, meeting more of his family, living a life she'd never dreamed possible. And the best part? It wasn't pretend anymore. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word was real. Emily finally drifted off to sleep with that thought warming her from the inside out. Whatever happened next, she had this. She had Marco. And for now, that was everything. The party is tomorrow, and Emily and Marco's relationship is more real than ever. But will the pressure of his entire family watching bring them closer together, or reveal cracks neither of them expected? Emily woke to sunshine streaming through gauze curtains and the sound of waves in the distance. For a moment, she just lay there, soaking in the peace. Then she remembered. Today was Rosa's birthday party. Today she'd meet Marco's entire extended family. Her phone showed 3 texts from Marco, all sent in the last hour. "Morning, beautiful. Sleep well. I'm taking Mom to breakfast. Be back by noon. Miss you already. Forgot to mention, the dress I sent for tonight. Wear your hair up. I want to see your neck." Heat flooded through her at that last message. She typed back, "Bossy even in text messages. Some things never change." His response was immediate. "You love it. See you soon." She did love it. She loved everything about him. Emily showered and dressed in casual clothes, then headed downstairs. She found Lucia in the kitchen making coffee, still in her pajamas. "Morning," Lucia said with a warm smile. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep past 7. Old habits." Emily accepted the coffee mug gratefully. "Where are the kids?" "Still asleep, thank God. They were up until midnight arguing about who gets to sit next to Uncle Marco at dinner tonight." Lucia laughed. "He spoils them rotten. He's good with them. He's good with everyone he loves." Lucia studied Emily over her mug. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. How did you get past his walls? Marco's been guarded for so long. After Catherine, he swore off serious relationships, said it wasn't worth the risk. But with you, he's different. Open. Happy." Emily chose her words carefully. "I think maybe I didn't try to get past his walls. I just showed up every day and let him know I wasn't going anywhere. Eventually, he let me in on his own terms." "Smart." Lucia set down her mug. "He's falling hard for you. I can see it. Just be careful with him, okay? He acts tough, but his heart breaks like anyone else's. I would never hurt him." The words came out fierce. "Lucia, what Marco and I have, it's real. I'm in this completely." Lucia's smile was brilliant. "Good, because my brother deserves someone who sees him, all of him, and loves him anyway. And I think that's you." The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Gianna arrived with Richard to help set up for the party. The house filled with the sounds of laughter and preparation. Flowers were arranged, tables were set, and a catering team transformed the backyard into something from a magazine. Marco and Rosa returned around noon, both laughing about something. When Marco saw Emily helping arrange centerpieces, his whole face lit up. He crossed to her immediately, pulling her into his arms right there in front of everyone. "Hi," he said, his voice low and warm. "Hi yourself. How was breakfast?" "Good. Mom interrogated me about our relationship for an hour straight." He grinned. "I think I passed." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you walked into my life 2 years ago and slowly became the most important person in it. That I was an idiot for not seeing it sooner. That I'm not letting you go." His thumb brushed her cheek. She cried. Happy tears. Emily's throat tightened. Marco, I know, too much. I keep saying too much. But he didn't look sorry. Go get ready. I want to see you in that dress. 3 hours later, Emily stood in front of her bedroom mirror, barely recognizing herself. The dress Marco had chosen was stunning. Deep burgundy, it hugged every curve before flowing out at her knees. The neckline was elegant, but showed off her collarbones and neck. She'd swept her hair up like he'd asked, leaving a few tendrils framing her face. She looked like someone who belonged at a party like this. Someone who belonged with Marco Ricci. A knock on her door made her turn. Come in. Marco walked in and stopped dead. His eyes went wide, traveling over her slowly, and the heat in his gaze made her shiver. Emily. His voice was rough. You look absolutely breathtaking. You clean up pretty nice yourself. And he did. His black suit was perfectly tailored, his white shirt crisp, his tie burgundy to match her dress. He looked dangerous and sophisticated and completely edible. He crossed to her, pulling a velvet box from his pocket. I got you something, may I? She nodded, and he opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a single diamond pendant. Marco, this is too much. Nothing is too much for you. He moved behind her, fastening the necklace. His fingers brushed her neck, and she felt that touch everywhere. There. Perfect. She turned to face him, and the intensity in his eyes stole her breath. Thank you. It's beautiful. Not as beautiful as you. His hand settled on her waist. Ready to face the masses? With you, always. They walked downstairs together, his hand on her lower back. The party was in full swing. The backyard was filled with people, all dressed elegantly, champagne flowing freely. A string quartet played near the garden. Rosa stood in the center of it all, radiant in a silver dress, surrounded by family and friends. When she saw Marco and Emily, her face lit up. There's my son and his beautiful girlfriend. She pulled them both into hugs. Emily, that dress is perfection. Marco, you chose well. I always do, Marco said, winking at Emily. The next hour was a whirlwind of introductions. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends. Everyone wanted to meet the woman who'd captured Marco Ricci's heart. Emily smiled and made conversation, very aware of Marco's constant presence beside her. His hand never left her, whether on her back, her waist, or tangled with her fingers. You're doing amazing, he murmured during a brief moment alone. Everyone loves you. Your family is wonderful. They are. And they can tell this is real between us. My Aunt Maria just told me she's never seen me this happy. Are you? Happy? Marco turned to face her fully, his hands framing her face. Around them, the party continued, but in that moment, it felt like they were the only two people in the world. Emily, I'm happier than I've ever been. You make me want things I never thought I'd want. A real relationship. A future. Someone to come home to. His thumb brushed her lips. I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I think I already have. I'm just waiting for you to catch up. Her heart soared. Marco, may I have everyone's attention, please? Rosa's voice rang out across the garden. The music stopped, and all eyes turned to her. Thank you all for coming to celebrate with me tonight. 70 years is a milestone, and having my family around me makes it perfect. Rosa's eyes found Marco and Emily. I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone special. My son Marco brought his girlfriend Emily tonight, and I cannot tell you how happy it makes me to see him so in love. Emily, welcome to our family. We're so grateful to have you. Everyone applauded, and Emily felt tears prick her eyes. Marco's arm tightened around her waist. Speech, someone called out. Marco laughed. You all know I hate speeches. Do it for your mother, Gianna shouted. Marco sighed but smiled. He turned to Emily, taking both her hands. All right, fine, but I'm only talking about one thing, this woman right here. Emily's heart pounded as everyone turned to look at them. 2 years ago, Emily walked into my office for a job interview. She was nervous, trying so hard to impress me. What she didn't know was that I was impressed the moment she sat down. She was smart, capable, and had this quiet strength that drew me in. Marco's voice was steady, but his eyes were intense on hers. She became my assistant. But more than that, she became my friend. Someone I could trust. Someone who saw me as more than my reputation. He paused, his thumb stroking over her knuckles. And then one day, I looked at her and realized she wasn't just my assistant or my friend. She was the person I wanted to come home to. The person whose opinion mattered most. The person who made every day better just by being in it. Emily's vision blurred with tears. So tonight, in front of all of you, I want Emily to know something. Marco's voice dropped lower, intimate despite the crowd. I love you, completely, irrevocably. And if you'll let me, I'm going to spend every day proving it. The garden erupted in cheers and applause, but Emily barely heard it. Marco loved her. He'd just told her in front of his entire family. Say something, he said softly, wiping away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. I love you too, she whispered. So much it scares me. Don't be scared. I've got you. And then he kissed her, right there in front of everyone, a kiss that promised everything. When they broke apart, Rosa was crying happy tears, and Lucia was grinning like a fool. The party continued with renewed energy, but Emily barely noticed. All she could see was Marco, looking at her like she hung the moon. They danced later, moving together like they'd been doing it for years. His arms around her, her head on his chest, the string quartet playing something slow and romantic. Thank you, Emily said against his shoulder. For what? For seeing me, for letting me in, for loving me. Emily, you make it impossible not to love you. He pulled back to look at her. I meant every word I said tonight. I love you. And I know we haven't been together long, but I know what I want. You. Us. A future together. I want that too. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. He grinned. Fair warning. Ricci men love hard and forever. You're never getting rid of me. I don't want to get rid of you. They swayed together as the night deepened around them, surrounded by family and love and the promise of something beautiful ahead. Later, when the party wound down and guests started leaving, Marco walked Emily back to her room. At her door, he pulled her close one more time. I wish I could stay, he murmured against her hair. But my mother would kill me. She would, and I like her too much to get on her bad side. He laughed, then kissed her softly. Tomorrow, we head back to the city. Back to real life. But Emily, this doesn't change. What we have, it's not just for this weekend. I know, I don't want it to be. Good, because I'm keeping you. One more kiss, deeper this time, and then he forced himself to step back. Good night, amore mio. Good night. Emily closed the door and leaned against it, her whole body buzzing with joy. Marco loved her. They were really doing this, building something real and lasting and beautiful. She changed into her pajamas and climbed into bed, but sleep was impossible. Her mind replayed the night over and over. Marco's speech, his declaration of love, the way he'd looked at her like she was his whole world. A soft knock made her sit up. Before she could answer, her door opened, and Marco slipped inside, closing it quietly behind him. Marco, what are you? I couldn't stay away. He crossed to the bed, sitting on the edge. I just need to be near you for a few minutes. Is that okay? In answer, Emily lifted the covers. Marco kicked off his shoes and climbed in beside her, fully clothed. He pulled her into his arms and she curled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. This is perfect, he murmured into her hair. You're perfect. We're going to get caught. Don't care. Worth it. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Just a few minutes. Then I'll sneak back to my room like a teenager. They lay there in the dark, wrapped around each other, and Emily had never felt safer or more loved in her entire life. Thank you for taking a chance on us, Marco whispered. Thank you for asking me to. Tomorrow they'd go home, back to work, back to their routines. But everything had changed. They'd changed, and Emily couldn't wait to see what came next. Marco and Emily have confessed their love in front of his entire family. But as they head back to reality, Will their new relationship survive the challenges waiting for them? The drive back to the city Sunday afternoon felt different. Emily sat pressed against Marco's side, his arm around her shoulders, their fingers intertwined. Everything had changed in one weekend. They weren't pretending anymore. This was real, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. "You're quiet," Marco said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Thinking about something. Just about how we do this now, at work, I mean. Do we tell people? Keep it private. I don't want anyone thinking I slept my way into this job." Marco's jaw tightened. "Anyone who knows you knows that's ridiculous. You earned your position through hard work and skill. But I understand your concern." He tilted her face up to his. "We'll do whatever makes you comfortable. We can keep it quiet for a while if you want. Maybe at first. Until we figure out how this works." "Okay, but Emily, I'm not hiding how I feel about you. If someone asks, I'm going to tell them the truth. That you're mine, and I'm crazy about you." Warmth flooded through her. "I can live with that." They spent the rest of the drive making plans. Dinner dates, weekend getaways. Marco wanted to take her to Italy to meet his extended family. Emily wanted to introduce him to Claire, who was doing better after a new treatment plan that Emily could now afford thanks to the money from their arrangement. When they arrived at Emily's apartment building, Marco insisted on walking her up, carrying her suitcase despite her protests. "I'm coming in," he said at her door. "I want to see where you live. Your space." Emily's stomach flipped with nerves. Her apartment was tiny compared to his penthouse. One bedroom, small kitchen, second-hand furniture, but it was hers, and she'd made it cozy with plants and photos and soft throws. Marco stepped inside and looked around, his expression unreadable. Emily held her breath, suddenly self-conscious about the worn couch and the mismatched dishes visible in the kitchen. "It's small, I know." "It's perfect." Marco turned to her, his eyes warm. "It's you. Comfortable, welcoming, real." He pulled her into his arms. "I love it. Though I'm hoping you'll spend more time at my place now." "Are you asking me to move in?" "Eventually. Not right away, we just started this. But Emily, I want more nights like Friday. Waking up knowing you're close. I want to make you breakfast and fall asleep next to you." His hands framed her face. "I want everything with you." She stretched up and kissed him, pouring all her feelings into it. Marco responded immediately, backing her against the door, his body pressed to hers. The kiss deepened, turned desperate, and Emily's hands fisted in his shirt. "Emily," he groaned against her mouth, "tell me to leave. Because if I stay, I'm not going to want to stop." "Then don't stop." His eyes darkened. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Marco kissed her again, slower this time, savoring. Then he scooped her up, making her squeal with laughter, and carried her to the bedroom. Hours later, Emily lay wrapped in Marco's arms, her head on his chest, feeling completely content. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder, and every few minutes he'd press a kiss to her hair like he couldn't help himself. "I should go," he murmured, though he made no move to leave. "Early meeting tomorrow." "Stay." Emily tightened her arms around him. "Just tonight. I don't want you to leave yet." "You sure? Because once I stay over, I'm going to want to do it every night." "Good." Marco chuckled and settled deeper into the pillows, pulling her closer. "Okay then, I'm staying." They fell asleep, tangled together, and Emily had never slept better in her life. Monday morning arrived too soon. They got ready together, and Emily loved the domestic intimacy of it. Marco making coffee while she did her makeup, him zipping up her dress, her fixing his tie. It all felt so natural, like they'd been doing it for years instead of one night. At the office, they tried to be professional. Emily at her desk, Marco in his office, but every time he passed her, his hand would brush her shoulder or her back, little touches that said, "I'm thinking about you." Around 10, her phone buzzed with a text from him. "This is torture. I can see you through the window, but I can't touch you." She glanced up to find him watching her from his office, phone in hand. She typed back, "Professional, remember? We agreed." "Screw professional." "Come in here." "Marco, please. I need to kiss you, and it's been at least 3 hours." Emily laughed and stood, smoothing her skirt. She knocked on his doorframe. "Mr. Ricci, did you need something?" His eyes heated. "Close the door." She did, and before she could turn around, Marco was there, spinning her to face him and capturing her mouth in a kiss that made her knees weak. "Much better," he murmured when they broke apart. "I was going crazy out there." "We can't do this every time you want to kiss me. People will notice." "Let them notice. I love you, Emily. I'm not ashamed of that." He brushed her hair back from her face. "But if you want to keep it quiet for a while longer, I'll try to behave. Just a little while. Until we figure out the office dynamics. Okay? For you, I'll wait." He kissed her once more, soft and sweet. "Now get back to work before I forget all my good intentions." The next few weeks fell into a beautiful rhythm. During the day they were professional, though Marco's eyes followed Emily everywhere, and his touches, while brief, spoke volumes. At night they were inseparable. Emily started keeping clothes at Marco's place. They cooked together, watched movies curled up on his couch, talked for hours about everything and nothing. Marco took her to fancy restaurants and quiet cafes. They walked through Central Park holding hands. He introduced her to his favorite places in the city, and she showed him hers. Every day, Emily fell more in love with him. One Friday night, 6 weeks after Rosa's party, Marco took Emily to an Italian restaurant in Little Italy. They'd just finished an incredible meal when he reached across the table and took her hand. "I have something to tell you," he said, his expression serious. Emily's stomach clenched. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. But I need to be honest with you about something." He took a breath. "Remember when we started this, when I asked you to pretend to be my girlfriend?" "Of course. I told you it was because I'd lied to my mother about having a girlfriend, that I needed someone to play the part." His thumb stroked over her knuckles. "That wasn't entirely true." Emily's heart started to pound. "What do you mean?" "I mean that yes, I'd told my mother I was seeing someone. But the real reason I asked you was because I'd been in love with you for months and I was too afraid to admit it." His green eyes bore into hers. "I thought if I could just have you close for a week, pretend you were mine, maybe I could get you out of my system. Maybe the fantasy would be better than the reality and I could move on." "Marco." "But the opposite happened. Having you close, touching you, kissing you, even when it was supposed to be fake. It just made me fall harder. By the time we got to the Hamptons, I knew I couldn't let you go. I knew I wanted it to be real." He stood and moved to her side of the table, kneeling beside her chair. "Emily Schuyler, I fell in love with you the day you walked into my office 2 years ago. I just didn't realize it until I almost lost my chance with you." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You weren't going to lose me. I've been in love with you just as long. I know that now. But at the time, I was terrified. So I came up with that stupid fake girlfriend plan, hoping it would give me the courage to tell you the truth." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "And now I need to ask you something." Emily's breath caught. "Marco, what are you—" "I'm not proposing. Not yet. But I want you to know I'm going to." He opened the box to reveal a delicate promise ring, a simple band with tiny diamonds. "This is a promise that I love you, that I'm serious about us, that when the time is right, I'm going to ask you to marry me, and I really hope you'll say yes." Tears streamed down Emily's face. "Yes, I mean not yes to marriage, not yet, but yes to the promise, yes to us, yes to everything." Marco slipped the ring on her right hand and kissed it. "I love you so much." "I love you too." He stood and pulled her up with him, kissing her right there in the restaurant while other diners applauded. Emily didn't care. Let them watch. This was real. This was forever. That night, back at Marco's penthouse, they lay in bed wrapped around each other. Emily kept looking at the ring on her finger, still hardly believing this was her life. "Tell me something," she said, tracing patterns on his chest. "When did you know that you loved me?" Marco was quiet for a moment, his fingers combing through her hair. There wasn't one moment. It was 1,000 little things. The way you always brought me coffee exactly how I like it without asking. The way you handled difficult clients with patience I didn't have. The way you laughed at my terrible jokes. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. But if I had to pick one moment, it was about 6 months ago. You stayed late to help me with a presentation. We ordered Chinese food and you got sauce on your nose. I reached over to wipe it off and you smiled at me and something just clicked. I thought, this is the woman I want to spend my life with. Emily's throat tightened. Why didn't you say anything? Fear. I didn't want to lose you. Didn't want to make things awkward if you didn't feel the same way. He tilted her face up to his. I wasted so much time being afraid. I'm not wasting any more. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. 3 months later, Marco took Emily back to the Hamptons for Christmas. The whole family was there, including Claire, who'd become fast friends with Lucia and Gianna. On Christmas morning, Marco led Emily down to the beach where they'd walked so many times before. I love you, he said, taking both her hands in his. I love your strength, your kindness, your laugh. I love how you love your sister, how you took care of my family like they were your own. I love everything about you. He dropped to one knee, and Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Emily Schuyler, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. I want to build a family with you, grow old with you, love you through everything life throws at us. He pulled out a ring box and opened it to reveal a stunning diamond ring. Will you marry me? Yes. Emily was crying and laughing at the same time. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Marco slipped the ring on her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. When he set her down, he kissed her with everything he had. I can't believe you're going to be my wife, he said against her lips. I can't believe you're going to be my husband. They walked back to the house hand in hand, and when they told the family, Rosa cried happy tears and declared that she'd known from the moment she met Emily that she was the one. That night, surrounded by family and love, Emily thought back to that night in Marco's office when he'd asked her to pretend to be his girlfriend. She'd been so scared, so certain it would end in heartbreak. She'd been wrong. It had ended in everything she'd ever dreamed of and more. What are you thinking about? Marco asked, pulling her close as they watched the fire. Just that sometimes the best things in life start with a crazy plan and a leap of faith. Speaking of crazy plans, Marco said with a mischievous smile, how do you feel about a destination wedding in Italy? I want to show you off to everyone. Emily laughed. Whatever you want, as long as I get to marry you, I don't care where we do it. Perfect. Because I'm thinking late summer, I don't want to wait too long to make you Mrs. Ricci. Mrs. Emily Ricci. She tested the name. I like the sound of that. I love the sound of it. He kissed her temple. Thank you for saying yes. To everything. To that first fake date. To giving us a real chance. To forever. Thank you for seeing me. For loving me. For being the man I always hoped existed but never thought I'd find. They sat there in comfortable silence, watching the fire, dreaming about their future. A future full of love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that came from finding your person. Emily looked at the ring on her finger, then at Marco's face in the firelight, and knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where she was meant to be. Sometimes the best love stories started with a little pretending, but what they had now was the realest thing Emily had ever known, and it was just the beginning. Emily and Marco's journey from fake relationship to forever love was complete. What started as a business arrangement became the love story of a lifetime, proving that sometimes taking a chance on something uncertain leads to everything you've ever wanted.